Welcome back. So, you must be wondering why the name of the stream is 01 again, right? Well, maybe you're not because there is no viewers right now. Probably zero views. I don't care. So, what happened is that I skipped the day. So, the streak is gone. So, I'm starting from 01 again. So, we have stopped it at 9, I guess. Now it's back to 1. Let's get back. Let's build it brick by brick again. So today we are gonna read about this one. Okay. Hey, that's me. I'm good. Anyway, so here we go with refragmentation, right? So it's from January 2016. Let's go. An advantage of being old is that you can see things happen in your lifetime. A lot of change I've seen is fragmentation. US politics is much more polarized than it used to be. Culturally, we have ever less good common ground. This is so right. The creative class folks are to a handful of happy cities abandoning the rest. The increasing economic inequality means the spread between rich and poor is growing too. I'd like to propose a hypothesis that all these trends are instances of same phenomenon, and moreover that the cause is not same force that's pulling us apart, but rather the erosion of forces that had been pushing us together. So that's the hypothesis. Let's see if it's right. Worse still, for those who carry these trends, the forces that were pushing us together were an anomaly, a one time combination of circumstances that's unlikely to be repeated, and indeed that we would not want to repeat. The two forces were war, above all, World War II, and the rise of large corporations. The effects of World War II were both economic and social. Economically, it decreased variation in income. Like all modern armed forces, Americas were socialist economically, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need, more or less. What does that mean? Effects of World War II were both economical and social. Okay, economically, it decreased the variation in income. Like all modern armed forces, Americas were social economically, socialist economically. Okay, armies were socialists. Is that it? I don't know what that means actually. And they combined that word with economically. Now it got more complex. I have no idea what that is. Socialist economically. Let's see. Services produced for the user need to welfare rather than private profit. Okay, social economy is state community owned. This is good. What is this? Where did it come from? Oh. Nice. Nice. Nice Google. Anyways, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. More or less. Higher ranking members of the military got more, as higher ranking members of socialist societies always do, but what they got was fixed according to their rank. And the flattening effect wasn't limited to those under arms, because the US economy was concepted too. From 1942 to 1945, all wages were set by National War Labor Board. Like the military, they defaulted to flatness, and this national standardization of wages was so pervasive that its effect could still be seen years after the war ended. Business owners weren't supposed to be making money either. FDR said not a single war millionaire would be permitted. to ensure that any increase in companies' profits over pre-war levels was taxed at 85%, and what was left after taxes reached individuals, it was taxed again at the marginal rate of 93%. Oh my fucking god! I didn't know this shit. How am I supposed to know this shit? 85% tax. Not a single war millionaire. That was after corporate taxes reached individuals. I didn't know this. Let's open up and pre-war levels was taxed at 85%, and when war was did you know what to insurance supposed to be making money? I said the world will be permitted to ensure that increasing companies' profits when it was left over to corporate taxes, fixed individuals and it was taxed again at a marginal rate of 93%. Crazy. It's told me. Yeah. Some teacher told me that. Did you know during the war? Suppose if you're not seeing X notifications or notifications are due like minutes. This deserves to be got unleash. Unleash the avatar. What is this? God damn. Don't have the budget in Spain. How to do with the budget is modeling of the character. Don't worry, we'll give it perspective. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Anyways. Okay, I kept you waiting, sorry. Socially too, the war tended to decrease variation. Over 16 million men and women from all different sorts of backgrounds were brought together in a way of life that was literally uniform. That's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome. Service rates for men born in early 1920s approached 80%, and working towards a common goal, often under stress, brought them still closer together. Though, strictly speaking, World War II lasted less than 4 years for the US, its effect lasted longer. Wars make central governments more powerful, and World War II has an extreme case in this. In the US, as in all other allied countries, the federal government was slow to give up the new powers it had acquired. Indeed, in some respects of the war, it didn't end in 1945. The enemy just switched to the Soviet Union. The tax rates, the federal power, different spending, conscription, and nationalism. The decades after the war looked more like wartime than pre-war peacetime. And the social effect lasted too. The kid pulled into an army from behind a mule team in West Virginia didn't simply go back to the farm afterward. Something else was waiting for him, something that looked a lot like army. If Total War was a big political story of 20th century, big economic story was the rise of new kind of company. And these two tended to produce both social and economic cohesion. In 20th century, the 20th century was the century of big national corporation, General Electric, General Foods, General Motors, development in finance, communications, transportation, and manufacturing enabled a new type of company whose goal was above all scale. Version 1 of this world was less low-res, a Duplo world of few giant companies dominating each big market. The late 19th and early 20th centuries had been a time of consolidation, led especially by JP Morgan. Thousands of companies run by their founders were merged into a couple hundred giant ones run by professional managers. Economies of scale ruled the day. It seemed to people at that time that this was a final stage of things. John D. Rockefeller said in 1980, the day of combination is here to stay. Individualism has gone, never to return. He turned out to be mistaken, but he seemed right for the next 100 years. The consolidation that began in 19th century continued most of the 20th, but the end of World War II, as Michel Lin writes, the major sectors of economy were either organized as government-backed cartels or dominated by few oligopolistic corporations. For consumers, this new world meant the same choices everywhere, but only few of them. When I grew up, there were only two or three of most of things. Since they were all aiming at the middle of the market, there wasn't much to differentiate them. One of the most important instances of this phenomenon was in TV. There were only three choices: NBC, CBS, ABC, plus public TV for eggheads and communists. The programs that the three networks offered were indistinguishable. In fact, here there was triple pressure towards the center. If one show did try something daring, local affiliates in conservative markets would make them stop. Plus, since TVs were expensive, whole families watched the same shows together, so they had to be suitable for everyone. And not only did everyone get the same thing, they got it at the same time. It's difficult to imagine now, but every night, tens of millions of families would sit down together in front of the TV set watching the same show at the same time as the next door neighbors. What happens now with the Super Bowl used to happen every night. We were literally in sync. In a way, mid-century TV culture was good. The view it gave of the world was like you would find in children's book, and it probably had something of the effect that parents hope children's books have in making people's behavior better. But like children's books, TV was also misleading, dangerously misleading for adults. As his autobiography, Robert McNeil talks of seeing some gruesome images that had just come in from the Vietnam, and thinking we can't show this to families while they're having dinner. I know how pervasive the common culture was because I tried to opt out of it. I know, and it was practically impossible to find alternatives. When I was 13, I realized more from internal evidence than any outsider outside source, that the ideas we were being fed on TV were crap. How can you remember what was your age? Crazy. When I was 13? I don't remember my 13. I hate that. I don't remember it. I hate it. Is it just me or is it everybody? I don't know. I don't have anything I could say like when I was 13, when I was 14, when I was 6. This happened. No, I have no fucking memory like that. I just go ahead, head on to the next day. I don't think about past. I don't have any memories of the past. Fuck. It is depressing. Anyways, more from internal evidence than any outside source. That's why I need to make generalize, man. That's why I need to make generalize. It's the best thing I could get. But it wasn't just TV. It seemed like everything around me was crap. The politicians all saying same things, and consumer brands making almost identical products with different labels stuck on to indicate how prestigious they were meant to be. The balloon frame houses with fake colonial skins and the cars with several feet of gratuitous what is that? Intuition. Gratuitous metal on each end that started to fall apart after a couple years, and the red delicious apples that were red but only nominally apples, and in retrospect, it was crap. But when I went looking for alternatives to fill this void, I found practically nothing. There was no internet then. The only place to look was in the chain bookstore in the local shopping mall. I found a copy of The Atlantic. I wish I could say it became a gateway to a wider world. But in fact, I found it boring and incomprehensible. Like a kid tasting whiskey for the first time and pretending to like it. I preserved the magazine as well as carefully as it had been a book. I'm sure I still have it somewhere. But though it was evidence that there was somewhere a world that wasn't delicious, I didn't find it till college. It wasn't just as consumers the big companies made us similar. They did as employers too. Within companies there were powerful forces pushing people toward a single model of how to look and act. IBM was particularly notorious for this. But they were only a little too extreme than other big companies. And the models of how to look and act varied little between companies, meaning everyone within this world was expected to seem more or less the same, and not just those in corporate world, but also everyone who aspired to it, which in the middle of the 20th century meant most people who were already in for it. For most of the 20th century, working class people tried hard to look middle class. You can see it in old photos. Few adults aspired to look dangerous in 1950. But the rise of national corporations didn't just compress us culturally, it compressed us economically too. And on both ends, along the giant national corporations, we got giant national labor unions. And in the mid 20th century, the corporations cut deals with unions where they paid over market price for labor, partly because the unions were monopolies, partly because the components of our duopolies themselves and corporations knew they could safely pass the cost on their customers. Freaking out. Because their competitors would have been too as well, and partly because in mid-century most of the giant companies were still focused on finding new ways to milk economies of scale. Just as startups right away pay AWS premium as a premium over cost of running their own services, so they can focus on growth. Many of the big national corporations were willing to pay a premium for labor. I need to go back. There is no way I could understand that. Oh my god, that is so much. That is so much. I'll be right back, okay? I'll be right back. Back baby, back baby, back baby. So here we are talking about how refragmentation is happening. So firstly, when there were wars in 1940s, so we were talking about World War II specifically, how it affected US. So what it did is it actually made everything monopoly, right? There is no diversity in anything, and even economically as well as socially. That's the most important point. Economically, it decreased the variation in income. So income gap is completely gone. Why? People are not allowed to earn money at all, right? So that made everybody look the same, right? Everybody has to go join armed forces, and it was a socialist country economically. So the armed force, even in the armed forces, the higher rank members earn more, usual, just as usual. But what got it fixed according to the rank? They got was fixed according to their rank. So whatever they got was fixed according to the rank, right? So if two people have the same rank, then they have same salary. So it's not like that right now. I don't know. I don't think so. But anyways, that's the concept. What happened is economically everybody was supposed to earn similarly, right? And especially in armed forces, he's talking about armed forces in specific in here. Inside the armed forces, every ranked guy gets similar salary, and higher rankers get more than the lower ones. And between 1942 to 1945, all wages were set by National War Labor Board. So the wages of these people was set by National War Labor Board. Like the military, they defaulted to flatness. And this national standardization of wages was so pervasive that its effects could still be seen in years after war ended. Business ended, owners weren't supposed to be making money either. FDR said, not a single war millionaire. So you can't make millionaires in the war. Alright, so that makes sense. It's supposed to happen, right? But now what happens is that these millionaires and billionaires are the ones who are actually funding these wars these days, right? So much of Illuminati stuff. But anyways, FDR said that not a single war millionaire will be permitted, and whatever the tax profits that companies have got were taxed by 85%, and whatever left was reached to people, and that was taxed by 93%. So effectively they got very, very, very little of what they could get. Socially too, war tended to decrease in variation. So the decreased variation, the income inequalities have gotten to almost zero, right? So they can't earn anyway, and people who are poor will be earning similarly. So effectively the living standards will be same. and over 16 million men and women from all sorts of different backgrounds were brought together in a way of life that was literally uniform. Service rates for men born in 1920s approached 80%, and working toward a common goal, often under stress, brought them still together, closer together. Though society speaking, World War II lasted less than 4 years for the US, its effect lasted longer. Wars made central governments more powerful, and World War II was an extreme case of this. In the US, it was as in all other allied countries, the federal government was slow to give up the new powers it had acquired. Indeed, in some respects, the war didn't end in 1945. The enemy just switched to Soviet Union. The tax rates